Akoma, and greetings, brother and sister leaders. Want to talk quickly about purpose in our intimate relationships. You know, life and love purpose is one of the super seven soulmate skills that we talk about in our work. And life and love purpose answers the questions of why are we alive on this earth? What are we here to do? And why are we together? What is the purpose? What is the deeper meaning of us being together? And there's so many things that purpose affords to people that understand and utilize and know how to utilize it. So over the last month and a half, we've been really busy at the Akoma House Initiative Counseling and Consulting Firm. We've had the opportunity to do a cohort of S.O.U.L, our premier skills building program. We've had, the Black Love School, we've had a lot of individual clients, and we've had the honor to work with about 130 sacred women initiates who are going through the training with our spiritual godmother and teacher of the last 25 years, the legendary Queen Afua in Bidhit. So talking to so many different people, men and women, over the last month and a half, we've been talking about purpose. And a couple things I want to talk about. The first thing is that so many black people are phased out, psyched out, and spooked out about purpose, right? They don't understand that all black people who are alive are living in their purpose. Whether they are conscious of their purpose or not, they are actually living in their purpose. So indigenous black culture teaches us there's no such thing as a person who is not living their purpose. So I want everyone to relax and ease themselves around this concept, because so many people that I see are anxious when you bring up the conversation about purpose, and they talk about purpose incorrectly. So the first thing is people are uncertain and feeling uncomfortable about whether they're living their purpose or not. And if you are alive, you are absolutely living your purpose. So you could rest assured with that. Now, a lot of people don't understand how to discover their purpose in their life, and so they're certainly not going to be utilizing purpose when it comes to love. But that's one of the things that we teach you how to find out. But so, first and foremost, you are living your purpose. You would not be alive if you were not living your purpose. And I understand most of us have no idea what our purpose is. And so my second point is this: please understand this. Your purpose is a life shai. It is a destiny. It is a mission that never changes. However, the way you utilize it and the way you share it will always change. So your purpose is not your career. I'm going to say it again. Your purpose is not your career. Your purpose is not your career. That's very, very important for people to understand, because some people say, I'm a teacher and my purpose is to work with 8th graders. That is not your purpose, right? That is something that you're doing within your purpose, but it is not what your purpose is. Nobody's purpose is to be an 8th grade teacher. And in fact, when you were born, you weren't an 8th grade teacher. In fact, when you were 7, you weren't an 8th grade teacher. In fact, when you were in the 8th grade, you were not an 8th grade teacher. So you didn't wait until you lived life, grew up, went to school, got a degree, found a job to start living in your purpose. Your purpose was intact at conception, right? Your purpose is intact at conception. Now, your purpose could be that you help people find their path, and you help people to learn things that may be challenging to them. That you could do as a teacher. That you could do as a neighborhood watch person. That you could do as a member of a large family. That you can do as a child. That you can do as an elder. That you can do a ton of different ways, but you don't want to lock your purpose into your profession. So that's the first thing. Everybody is on their purpose, whether they know it or not. The second thing is your purpose is not your profession. Please, black people, stop saying that, because that is not correct. Your purpose was intact before you ever had a job and you were living in your purpose. When you grow up, some people, let's just say you have a crew of friends. One is the warrior, that's a fighter. One is the comical one. One is the beautiful one. One is the deep thinking, inquisitive one, and they become a group of friends. And as they go through life, the fighter protects the friendship group. The deep thinker talks about the possibilities of the future and the way the friends can share their life. The comedic one makes them all laugh. And maybe the beautiful one is the representative of the crew. Now, as they disperse and move through the cycles of their life, they all hold these purposes as they move through their life, despite what their job is. Say the fighter becomes a law officer or a teacher, or becomes a sanitation worker, or a electrical technician. In those fields, they would still be fighting for the rights of others, still be a warrior, still be that person. The beautiful person could be a grounds maintenance person, but their approach to their landscaping is the highest artistry and beauty. The comedian could be a doctor or a lawyer, but they make their patients laugh in the hospital, or they make the jurors see the humor in the ridiculousness of the position of the other party. They're still living out their purpose as a grandparent, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a son, as a daughter, as a neighbor. Purpose is not a job, okay? Purpose is not a job, right? The characteristics of God that you manifest uniquely is the purpose, and why you came for that purpose in this particular time and in this particular space is, something that you must discover and utilize through the cycles of your life. So that's number two. Number one, everybody is on their purpose. There's no such thing as a person who's not living your purpose. So we can all release the anxiety about, am I on my purpose? You wouldn't be alive if you weren't. Two, your purpose is not your career. But three, and most importantly, purposes have weight in our intimate relationship. Two people come together not just because they're attracted to each other, or they like the booty or the chest or the shoulders or the biceps or the hips or the face. They come together because there is a spiritual magnetism bringing them together. And those physical attractions are symbolic references of that deeper attraction. But they are usually the complement to a purpose that, when combined together, they represent the true and living Mother, Father, God. And so when we come together in relationships, our purpose has individual character development. And you could tell this because first, there is a high level of excitement and anticipation. But then secondly, in the relationship, the person has almost what we would call the opposite, or more correctly, the complement counterbalance to your style. So a talker and gregarious person is with a like more recluse and pensive person. At times, this makes a complete and well-rounded person. At times, this causes a lot of tension. One person who is in love with a very beautiful person can be a person that may be a little bit rough on the exterior, and they're not as equally aligned in terms of the smooth presentation. One may have a very beguiling presentation, and the other one is a little rough and off-putting. but together they create balance. And initially this can feel really fulfilling, but it can also offer extreme challenges. So in our intimate relationships, we have to move with purpose, because this is my third point. Purpose, you proofs your relationship. What do I mean by that? My purpose in my relationship with Nawasha, Montsho proofs our relationship, and Nawasha proofs our relationships. The little idiosyncrasies that we have, and the little personality quirks or character flaws that we have that might sabotage if we were by ourselves. A relationship of purpose actually you-proofs or protects you from those thought, speech, and action patterns that actually usually devolve or destroy potential that is around you. So having a purpose actually protects you from the character flaws of yourself. And this is part of the reason why people who move in purpose are an equal balance of super elated and charged by being together, but also super challenged and often reflective about what the relationship offers them. So you have to understand this, because a lot of people believe falsely, because we've lost the understanding of life purpose, that if I'm with a person who, me and this person are in a purposeful relationship, there's no problems, there's no challenges, everything is ease and, smooth sailing. And this is not true. This is not true at all. In fact, harmonizing styles, which is another one of the Super 7 soulmate skills that we teach, is a skill that you need, because men and women in general are not alike, but then Montsho and Nawasha specifically are not alike, as you and your partner are not alike as man and woman, but then specifically you are not alike, right? So you got to understand this, and a purpose will help you with that. I was talking to this 130 sacred women and a couple of the couples that we've been working with, and the cohort group in S.O.U.L and the international community that we have in the Black Love School over the last month. And we were talking about this conversation where a woman asked a really, really powerful question to a group of men. She said, are you sure about your purpose for dating? Because my purpose for courting is to be married. And so she asked about 7 or 8 men this question, right? And all of the men said, I'm sure about my purpose. And then she said, tell me, I want all of you to tell me what it looks like to build up to marriage. So in other words, how long does it take for us to court? How long does it take for us to vet? How long does it take for us to commit, and what's involved in that? And then how long for engagement and marriage? And every single one of the men who said, I'm a leader, I move with purpose, I want a woman who can accept my leadership and follow my lead, they all started to and they began to say, well, it depends on the person, and it depends on, I can't really say how long it will take, and da-da-da. This reveals that these men don't understand purpose, because purpose gives you a system, right? When you go through the drive-thru to order food, they don't say, well, depending on you, that determines our system. Of course, there is times where you order something with extra pickles or whatever the case, or you order something from the menu and their system is slower, or something has to be cooked fresh. Let's just say you go to Wendy's, right? I'm using a fast food reference. As a vegetarian, when I do eat French fries, I think Wendy's has the best fries, right, in fast food. And don't eat fries that much, black people, because that oil in your stomach is not good. But let's just say you go to get some French fries. And one of the things I learned many years ago, 41 years ago when I was 14 and working at Burger King, my first job, is that if you wanted to guarantee that you got fresh fries, one of the things you could do is ask for fries with no salt, because they would have to drop those fries immediately. They wouldn't take them from the fries that had been standing waiting. And Wendy's bills themselves as food is not sitting under the heat lamp. It's made to order. That's how they bill themselves. So is that true? To a degree, I think. But in any event, if you came up and said, can I get some fries? Let me get 2 large fries with no salt. When you came up to pay in their system, they might tell you, could you pull up here? And somebody would come out in 2-3 minutes to give you the fries, because to cook those fries, it's going to take us about 3.5 minutes in that hot grease, right? That you shouldn't be eating. And you should definitely eat sparingly if you ever do. But that's an example of a breach or a break in the normal system. But even that, they can tell you how long you have to wait about and why it is that you have to wait. Well, the parallel that I'm drawing is that in the intimate relationship, when men and women move with purpose, they can answer the question, what are we doing here? How long does it take? And what needs to happen before we move to the next level? It's not a case-by-case scenario, because moving in an intimate relationship with purpose is not about getting to know another person as much as it is working a system that is in place. And this is what a purpose gives you. It gives you a systemized way that will help you build an intimate relationship that will, evolve into a power couple love legacy, which is one of the other skills of the Super 7 Soulmate skills. So purpose gives you the answer to about how long, what needs to happen in the courting process. This doesn't need to be a mystery or a surprise. About how long does it take, when will we know for sure, and then how long does it take to go to the next level until we're officially mated. Now, the final parallel I'll give you to prove this to you brothers and sisters who are in leadership, right? In your career, they tell you at the interview how long the interview process is going to be and when they're going to make their decision. Then, once you get the job, they tell you how long you're going to be on probation. And then, once you become permanent, they tell you what is the track to become a senior partner. It might take 2 years, it might take, 18 months, or they may say, if you could land this in this account, it might happen quicker. But generally, it's this amount of time. If there's some delay, you have a pregnancy or something, and you spend some time out, they say you could be on the track, but it may take a little bit longer because of variables like pregnancy and other things that would naturally impact your abilities or your presence in the position. So the point that I'm making here is that, yeah, there is a nuance and some wiggle room for variations, those planned and those unforeseen. But in general, you should not be entering into relationships without purpose, because a purpose in a relationship systemizes the process. And when the process is systemized, it doesn't extract or subtract any of the spontaneity, any of the mystique, any of the mystery, but what it allows you to do is to move with the confidence of knowing what is coming next and what needs to happen before the next level is reached and how long it takes. This would eliminate a lot of the BS that is happening out here. But alas, what is actually happening is we're just lonely. And so in our loneliness, we accept all kind of BS. And we accept moving into relationships that have quote unquote potential, but not purpose. We don't want to move saying, oh, this relationship has a lot of potential. We want to purge that thought and that word, that phrase. And the phrase and the thought and the speech and the action that we want to cultivate is not that our relationship has potential, but that our relationship has purpose. So these three things is what I want to share with you. Every black person is on their purpose. There's no such thing as one who is not on their purpose. That's number one. Number two, a purpose is not a career, brothers and sisters. It is not the fact that you are a dentist and that's your purpose in life. You had a purpose long before you could even talk. So your purpose is not to be a dentist or a teacher or a doctor or a landscaper or an entrepreneur. That is not what a purpose is. It's a much higher, more spiritually elevated assignment, right? The third thing is that a purpose systemizes and you proofs your relationship. It gives you a sense of protection around the things that you would naturally do to deconstruct and impact negatively the potential that an intimate relationship provides. So if any of this resonates with you and you want to learn some more or you want to discuss it with us, click the link attached to this video and we'll talk about the Super 7 soulmate skills. Number one is life and love purpose. Number two is conscious courting. Number three is 3D communication. That's deep, deliberate, and dynamic. Number four is harmonizing styles. Number five is intimacy and sex from a holistic African perspective. That's number five. Number six is resolving conflicts in the intimate relationship. And finally, number seven is a power couple love legacy for generations to come. These 7 skills are what we call the Super 7 soulmate skills at the Akoma House Initiative. And this is what we teach in our premier relationship skills building program called Akoma S.O.U.L. If this sounds interesting to you, or you want to just talk about it more, hit us up in any way. You can call us, you can click the link and book a strategy discovery call. You can comment here and you can communicate your experiences around purpose or lack thereof and what is the comparison of the two. I'm willing to guarantee, after working with 30,000 black people, singles and couples around intimate relationships over the last 25 years in about 16 countries, that you're going to say, if you have purpose, you are hitting goals and you have a destination and you know what's coming up next in your life and in your love. If you don't have purpose, it's like taking a ride with no destination. You just keep refilling the gas and just driving around until finally you're just worn out. You don't know where you're going. Even if the vehicle that you're using is luxury, it's still a waste of time to go on a journey on the highest stakes of your life that has no destination. So all this week we're dealing with purpose, life and love purpose, the first skill of the Super 7 soulmate skills. Willfully, this has been useful for you, and if it has, like, share, subscribe, and stay locked in for the art and science of black love culture as me and Nawasha bring you Akoma S.O.U.L, self and others understanding love. Until the next time, as always, greeting you in the eternal words of black love culture and saying, Nia Akoma.